If you have another man who can try, bring him. If not, maybe I should lift one of your palm wine barrels as extra. Or, he looked around. Should I lift a pregnant woman instead? Since that one might be too heavy for you people. He clearly meant it as a joke, but his words sent a ripple through the crowd. Chioma awoke to the soft crow of a rooster perched on the udara tree behind her compound. The first light of dawn painted the sky over Amiibo village in gentle pink and orange. It was early morning, and a cool breeze drifted through the mango trees. Heavily pregnant and feeling the weight of her belly, Chioma stretched and rose from her bamboo bed with a yawn. Despite being 8 months along, she moved with energy and purpose. Outside, the village was already stirring. Pink smoke curled out of clay chimneys as women lit their cooking fires. The scent of burning wood and boiling yam wafted through the air. Wrapping an Ankara cloth around her chest and tying another wrapper firmly under her belly, Chioma stepped out into the yard. She balanced a calabash of water on her hip, humming a cheerful folk tune. A pair of chickens clucked around her bare feet as she went to water her little garden of ugu leaves and peppers. Chioma, "Ụtụtụ ọma o, good morning," called her neighbor, Neude, from the next compound. The elderly woman was sweeping her yard with a short broom made of palm fronds. "Good morning, Neo," Chioma replied with a bright smile. She lifted the heavy water pot with ease and poured a steady trickle onto the thirsty plant. Neude paused her sweeping to stare, hands on her waist. Even in her youth, Neude couldn't remember any woman in the village carrying such a heavy pot at that stage of pregnancy. "Hey, yeah, take it easy, oh. You are carrying 2 people now, eh?" Neude first, clucking her tongue in concern. "This your baby will come out lifting dumbbells if you continue like this," she added in Igbo, shaking her head with equal parts worry and amusement. Chioma laughed, wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead. "Nne, I am fine. Ademomma, you know pregnancy is not sickness. I must water my vegetables so we can have soup this afternoon. Besides," she added with a mischievous grin, "the baby likes the exercise." Neude chuckled despite herself. "Okay, oh, superwoman, just be careful. We want a strong baby, but we also want a healthy mother." She leaned on a broom and watched as Chioma hefted the water pot again. This time, Chioma placed it expertly on her head, using a coiled cloth as cushion. Standing straight and proud, she walked across the yard without spilling a drop, even over uneven ground. Neude could only marvel and mutter, "Chioma, truly, your strength is not ordinary." As Chioma finished her chores, the rising sun cast a warm glow over the reddish soil of the compound. In the distance, a goat bleated and children's voices started to ring out as they got ready for the school day. Life in the village of Amiibo was beginning anew, with the promise of a clear bright day. And at the center of it, Chioma, pregnant, strong and cheerful, was already making her mark on another morning. As the sun climbed higher, Chioma fetched another bucket of water. Just as she hoisted it up, a tall figure appeared at the gate of the compound. It was her husband, Emeka, returning from the early morning palm wine tapas shade with a small keg of fresh palm wine dangling from his hand. He stopped in his tracks, eyebrows raised, watching his wife carry the bucket easily to the kitchen area. "Chioma, put that down, Biko, please." Emeka rushed over, his boots crunching on the dry soil. He took the bucket from her hands, concern etched on his face. forgotten you are not alone in that body now? Chioma rolled her eyes playfully. This one you are shouting. Are you the one carrying the baby? She teased, wiping her wet hands on her wrapper. I'm only pregnant, not made of glass. I promise I won't break. Her eyes sparkled with mischief and she patted his shoulder. Emeka shook his head, trying to suppress a smile. You, this woman, one day you will carry this whole house on your head and still tell me you are fine, he said, chuckling. He knew his wife's stubborn streak well. At least, allow me to help, Allow me to help, before people will say that I'm a weakling. Chioma laughed. A rich, hearty sound. Nobody would say that. They know I don't even let you carry your own toolbox, she joked. Emeka was a local carpenter, and it was true. Chioma had been known to lift his heavy toolbox of hammers and nails as easy as she lifted a basket of vegetables. They settled on a wooden bench under the shade of a plantain tree to have breakfast together. Chioma had prepared steaming hot akamu, pap made from corn, and akara balls she fried earlier. As they ate, a few neighbors passed by on the road and greeted them. The aroma of breakfast mingled with the scent of dew drying off the grass. Have you heard? Emeka began casually between sips of pap. That Okeke's son from the next village came back from Lagos. The one they call Iron, or what's his nickname? Iron Monkey. Chioma nearly choked on her laughter. Iron Monkey? What kind of name is that? Emeka grinned. They say he's a bodybuilder now, very strong, lifting weights and all those muscle thing. He flexed his arm comically to demonstrate. Though he was lean. He came back boasting that no one in Amiibo can beat him in a strength contest. Chioma raised an eyebrow. Interest piqued. You said that? Yes, so Emeka continued, enjoying the storytelling. Yesterday at the market square, he was doing gra-gra, showing off. He lifted a whole bag of yam tubers by himself and was calling out for challengers. Some of our men want to put him in his place during the New Yam Festival next week. They are planning a kind of weightlifting competition as part of the festival entertainment. Chioma shook her head, clicking her tongue. These men and their ego. New Yam Festival is for Thanksgiving, not wrestling. But I know our people. The moment someone brags, they must answer. Emeka nodded, wiping his hand on a napkin. True. You know our village youth leader, Ikechukwu, has been training since yesterday. He chuckled. He said he won't eat any fufu until the contest, so he can stay light on his feet. Chioma burst out laughing, as if it's a boxing match. This is how they will starve themselves and still fail to lift anything. Always turning everything into competition. They shared a laugh. Emeka finished his pap and stood up to get ready for the day's work. Anyway, I just hope no one breaks their back trying to impress that Iron Monkey. The man looks like a tree trunk. Chioma placed a hand on her hip, tilting her head thoughtfully. A tree trunk? Well, even a tree trunk can fall when the axe is sharp, she said slyly. Her husband eyed her with a mock, stern look. Madam, don't get any ideas. You will sit down quietly during that contest, oh. I know you, your blood is hot. Promise me you won't try to challenge anybody with this your condition. Chioma feigned innocence, placing a hand on her belly. Challenge me? I am just an observer, carrying your son or daughter here. Don't worry, I will behave. But the slight smile on her face didn't escape Emeka. As Emeka left for his workshop, Chioma cleared the dishes. She couldn't help imagining the scene at the festival, men grunting and struggling to lift weights. The so-called Iron Monkey basking in attention. The thought made her chuckle as she scrubbed the pot. Deep down, a flicker of excitement danced in her chest. She had no intention of causing trouble, of course, but something about a boastful strong man piqued her interest, like a challenge quietly calling her name. By late morning, chores were done and the sun was high. Chioma decided to walk to the village market to buy fresh okra and dried fish for soup. Wrapping a thin shawl over her head to shield from the sun, she headed out. Along the narrow path, lined with hibiscus shrubs and pawpaw trees, she exchanged greetings with villagers and passerby. At the market, stalls buzzed with life. Traders called out their wares. Tomatoes here, onions, pepper. The smell of smoked fish mingled with that of ripe plantains. Choma moved from stall to stall, selecting ingredients, and she haggled good-naturedly with Madame Ngozi over the price of dried fish. Two women nearby were deep in gossip. They didn't bother to lower their voices. Have you heard about the context next week? She asked, excitement in her tone. Yes, so that weightlifting thing. My cousin from Umuofia said that Iron Monkey nearly lifted a motorcycle in their village last month. The other exaggerated, eyes wide. The first woman gasped, Sophia Akwa, are you sure? A whole motorcycle? Chioma beat back a smile as she listened, pretending to focus on her fish purchase. The gossip continued. Me, I will go and watch with my own two korokoro eyes, said the second. And men too are preparing. I even saw Papa Okechukwu trying to lift a sack of garri yesterday. Can you imagine? The man almost scattered his waist. The two women burst into laughter and Chioma couldn't hold hers either. They noticed her and greeted. Chioma Kedu, how are you? I am fine, oh, Chioma answered warmly. I just heard you people talking about the strong man. I hope nobody hurts themselves, so they exchanged the latest rumors cheerfully. It seemed the whole village was buzzing about this impromptu strength contest during the New Year festival. As Chioma headed home with her basket full of vegetables and fish, she felt a mix of amusement and a strange anticipation. The villagers were in for a quiet show, that was certain. Little did anyone suspect just how surprising that show would become. That afternoon, as the sun dipped slightly westward, a small crowd of men gathered under the giant obono tree by Obiako's palm wine shade. This was the unofficial men's corner of Amiibo, a place for tapping sweet palm wine and even sweeter gossip. Long wooden benches hosted men of various ages, from the spry youth to grey-haired elders, all sipping from calabashes of fruity palm wine. Emeka was there, sharing a drink with his friend Ikechukwu and a few others after a long morning of work. The air was thick with friendly banter and occasional outbursts of laughter. Ikechukwu, the village youth leader, thumped his chest lightly after a generous gulp of palm wine. I am telling you, that so-called Iron Monkey will meet his match here, he declared, flexing an arm. Ikechukwu was not particularly muscular, more lanky than Brownie, but what he lacked in bulk, he made up for in confidence, especially under the encouragement of palm wine. Better be careful, teased Obiako, the tapper, a very middle-aged man with a permanent grin. If you break your waist, who will help me tap wine, eh? The group chuckled. Another man, Okafor, who was built like a wrestler, spoke up in a deep voice. I have been lifting my yam sacks daily to practice. Iron Monkey or Iron Gorilla, whoever he is, will see that Amiibo men are not weaklings. He cracked a kola nut with his fist to emphasize his point, offering pieces to the elders nearby as tradition demanded. Old Papa Okechukwu, who had indeed tried lifting a sack of garri the day before, rubbed his lower back exaggeratedly. I will leave the heavy lifting to you young people, oh, he said, laughing. At least I tried small. When I was your age, I could lift a bicycle, tire and all, he boasted, eyes twinkling with exaggeration. Emeka listened, smiling quietly. He hadn't joined the contest preparations. Carpentry work kept him busy, and he was content to let the younger men take up the challenge. But he couldn't resist adding, Ikechukwu, maybe you should let your wife pinch you so you wake up from this dream. That iron monkey is said to have muscles on top of his muscles. Ikechukwu clicked his tongue. Forget that thing. I have a secret weapon. Tonight, my wife will cook me a special pot of yam porridge with oba and okporoko. You know yam gives power. Everybody roared with laughter. Yam gives power indeed, Okafor slapped his knee. Just don't oversleep after eating it. As they joked, a young man from the next village who had come to buy palm wine interjected. I saw Iron Monkey once, he said, eager to get attention. During a festival in our town, he lifted two big mortar pestles at the same time, one in each hand. The youngster widened his arms to show the size, almost whacking another man accidentally. A couple of listeners ducked and then swatted at him good-naturedly for his clumsiness. Mortar pestles? Big deal, Ikechukwu said, trying to sound unimpressed. When the time comes, he will face real competition. From the corner, one of the elders, Akune, gave a sly smile and chimed in softly. You people are making mouths. Just be careful you don't disgrace us. Sometimes the akidi bean that the farmer rejects ends up being the one that fills his belly. The men paused, passing the proverb Obiako translated for the younger ones. He means don't underestimate anyone. Even someone who looks small or unlikely can surprise you. Yes, so Okechukwu nodded. In fact, look at Chioma, Emeka's wife, a woman heavily pregnant, yet she lifts things that even some of you strong men struggle with. He winked in Emeka's direction. Emeka chuckled, but Ikechukwu snorted, waving a hand dismissively. Chioma is strong for a woman, we know, but this contest is not for women's hands, so Bikokwe. It's for us to settle man to man. Pregnant women should be sitting and eating Odara fruit, not lifting weights. A couple of others laughed along, though one or two shook their heads at Ikechukwu's youthful arrogance. Emeka simply smiled into his drink, choosing not to argue. He knew better than to underestimate his wife, but he also knew Chioma wasn't one to show off needlessly. Soon, the talk turned to what bets were being placed. Okafor boasted, if I win, my wife agreed to name our next baby champion. This earned hoots of laughter. And if you lose? Obiako asked, pouring out palm wine for the group. If I lose, then I will name the baby after Iron Monkey himself. Okafor shot back to more cackles. Imagine a child named Monkey, God forbid. As the sun lowered and the palm wine flowed, the men's banter grew louder and sillier. They were like excited boys, eager for the coming spectacle. In the back of his mind, though, Emeka kept thinking of Akune's words and Chioma's fearless attitude. He silently prayed no drama would occur beyond a friendly contest. Little did he know, Faith and Chioma had their own plans brewing for the festival day. The days leading up to the New Yam Festival flew by, and excitement crackled in the air of Amiibo. Villagers scrubbed and decorated the central square, hung strings of colorful clothes, and prepared their best traditional outfits. Women busy with cooking and men rehearsing masquerade dance filled the village with lively energy. On the morning of the festival, Chioma woke up to the smell of yam boiling in large pots and the sound of lively Igbo music playing from a neighbor's radio. The festival day had arrived at last. Sunlight filtered through the raffia mat that served as her window blind. Chioma stretched her arms, feeling the baby stir gently within her. Today, she was determined to look her best, with her belly high and proud. She chose a beautiful orange George wrapper with gold embroidery, one of her nicest traditional attires saved for special occasions. Carefully, she tied the wrapper around her waist, slightly below her bulging stomach. and put on a matching blouse that accommodated her pregnancy. She wrapped a light chiffon ichafu headscarf around her head in a casual but neat knot. A pair of beaded earrings and a necklace of coral beads, borrowed from her mother, completed the look. Despite her condition, Chioma's face glowed with the radiance of both pregnancy and happiness for the celebration ahead. As she was adjusting her headscarf in front of a small mirror, her closest friend, Nneka, arrived. Nneka was carrying a covered basket that smelled of freshly fried chin-chin, small crunchy pastries. "Chioma oh!" Nneka sang out as she entered the compound. See fine woman. You look like a true Adi Igbo, daughter of Igbo land, ready for the festival." Chioma beamed and gave a little twirl, belly and all. "My sister, you want to make me shy this early morning?" she joked. "Come, sit. Is that chin-chin I smell?" "Yes, so," Nneka laughed, uncovering the basket to reveal golden brown chin-chin pieces. "I brought for you and Emeka. I know you will be too busy to fry snacks today." "You are a darling," Chioma said, popping one in her mouth and crunching happily. The two friends settled on a mat in the shade. Nneka was a childhood friend of Chioma, a lively woman with a quick wit. She wasn't pregnant at this moment, but had two little children who were at home with their grandmother while she came to help Chioma. As Nneka helped tie the second layer of Chioma's wrapper securely, she lowered her voice, saying, "So, have you had any new gist about the big contest today? I'm hearing the whole of Amiibo is coming out just for that though." "Even people from neighboring villages have come," Chioma nodded, adjusting a bead on her necklace. "I had." Emeka said the youth even set up a proper barbell and weights borrowed from the secondary school gym in town. They carried it to the square last night. Nneka let out a low whistle. "This is serious. I can't lie. I'm curious to see that Iron Monkey character with my own eyes. They say he's as big as a buffalo." Chioma laughed, and as loud as one, apparently, all mouth until proven otherwise. Nneka gave her a knowing look. "You sound confident, madam. Are you sure you are not planning to go and knock him down?" She said jokingly, but there was curiosity in her voice. Chioma raised her hands innocently. "Me care. I'm just an ordinary spectator carrying baby. But if he starts boasting too much, She clicked her tongue, and the two women burst into giggles. "Chai, Chioma Biko, don't put me in trouble," Nneka said between laughter. "If you try anything funny, your mother-in-law will chase both of us with a broom." Chioma wiped an amused tear from her eye. "Don't worry. I will behave, unless necessary," she added with a wink. Before Nneka could probe that mischievous comment, Emeka came out from the back room, adjusting his red isiagu shirt, a traditional Igbo men's top with a lion head pattern. He paired it with a smart pair of trousers and wore a black cap at a jointy angle. Seeing the two women huddled and giggling, he eyed them playfully. "Hope I'm safe with two of you," he asked, pretending to be scared. "I heard my name and trouble in the same sentence." Nneka stood up and curtsied dramatically. "Ah, Emeka, you look like a young chief. Chioma is a lucky woman." "And I am a lucky man," Emeka replied, smiling proudly at his wife in her finery. Then he narrowed his eyes in mock suspicion. "What are you two planning? Should I be worried?" Chioma stood with Nneka's help, dusting off her wrapper. "No plan at all, dear. Just that I might start charging you bride price again because I look too expensive today," she teased. Emeka laughed and came over to support her, one hand lightly around her back. He lowered his voice so only she could hear. "Just remember what we discussed. No heroics, I don't want any accidents." Chioma patted his hand reassuringly. "I remember, my love. I'm just going to watch and cheer. The baby and I will be fine." Soon the three of them, Chioma, Emeka and Nneka, set off for the village square. Emeka carried a folding stool for Chioma to sit on in case she got tired, despite her protest that she could stand. Along the way, they passed many villagers heading in the same direction, dressed in bright reds, blues, and yellows. Laughter and animated chatter filled the street. Children ran ahead, chasing each other with balloons made from tied-up polythene bags. An elder walked by, tapping his staff rhythmically on the ground and greeting everyone with blessings for a successful festival day. The aroma of roasted yam and spiced meat already wafted from the direction of the square. Chioma's stomach rumbled lightly. The baby clearly approved of the smells. She rubbed her belly and whispered, "Soon, you will taste all these things, little one." The sun shone brightly but not harsh, as if the weather itself decided to smile on the Amiibo's big day. With her husband on one side and her best friend on the other, Chioma felt a surge of happiness. Whatever the day would bring, contests, surprises, and all, she was ready to face it with a full heart and a playful spirit. The village square of Amiibo was transformed into a carnival of culture and joy. By the time Chioma, Emeka, and Nneka arrived, the festivities were in full swing. Tents had been set up where women sold steaming plates of jollof rice, spicy suya meat skewers, and bowls of ofe oha soup with fufu. Children clustered around a man twisting animal shapes out of balloons, a novelty that made them squeal with delight. At one end of the square, drummers beat their drums in a fast rhythm, accompanying a group of girls in vibrant dresses doing a traditional dance. Their feet kicked up little puffs of dust as they moved in sync. Near the old Udara tree, a troupe of masquerades in colorful ornate costumes entertained a crowd. One masquerade jumped and twirled, prompting cheers. Chioma felt the bass of the drums reverberate pleasantly in her chest as they walked through. Many villagers came up to greet them. "Chioma, you are glowing like the morning sun," one of Emeka's aunts exclaimed, hugging her gently. Another neighbor, a jovial man named Chukwudi, joked, "Emeka, hold your wife, oh. With the way she's shining, someone might steal her away." "Let them try," Chioma shook her back playfully. "I will just carry them like a sack of yam and throw away." Everyone around burst into laughter at the image of pregnant Chioma, tossing aside an unfortunate thief. They found a good spot near the center of the square where they could see the main event stage. Emeka set down the folding stool and insisted Chioma sit. She agreed to perch on it for a while, but only after Nneka threatened to tie her down if she didn't rest a bit. On the raised platform in the middle, the village elders and leaders were gathered. The Igwe, traditional ruler of Amiibo, an elderly man with a white beard and a red cap, sat in a place of honor. He was flanked by the chief elders. Soon, the ceremonial part of the New Yam Festival began. The Igwe's attendants brought out a large, beautifully roasted yam on a platter. The Igwe performed the ritual of cutting the first yam, offering prayers in Igbo for prosperity and thanking God and the ancestors for a good harvest. The crowd responded with a heartfelt "Ise," meaning amen or so be it, each time a prayer was offered. Chioma watched respectfully, joining in the claps and responses. She felt a warm sense of pride in her culture. Nneka whispered a quick translation of any parts a nearby young boy didn't understand, teaching him the significance. The boy listened with wide-eyed fascination. After the yam ritual and a flurry of traditional dances and music, the announcer, who happened to be Ikechukwu with a megaphone, stepped forward to address the crowd. Today, he wore a sleeveless traditional print top, presumably to give his arms freedom for later. A sheen of perspiration was already on his forehead, whether from heat or nerves. "Ndị be anyị," "My people," Ikechukwu's voice boomed, magnified by the megaphone. The chatter of the crowd quieted. We have thanked God for the yam. Now it is time for something fun. As many of you know, we have a special challenge today. Two villages will compete to see who is the strongest. A ripple of excitement and murmurs passed through the crowd. Children climbed onto parents' shoulders for a better view. Chioma could feel her heart picking up pace. Ikechukwu continued dramatically, playing to the audience. In this corner, he gestured to his right. The pride of Amiibo, the men who fear nothing, who carry the strength of 10 lions after drinking one keg of palm wine. Laughter and cheers erupted. A group of local young men, including Okafor and a couple of others, stepped forward, flexing their muscles comically. Emeka stayed back, but he clapped along with everyone, shooting Chioma a quick grin. And in the other corner, Ikechukwu pointed to his left. We have our friends from Umuofia village. They say their champion is made of iron and cannot be defeated. Echoed from the crowd. Let's welcome Obinna, also known as Iron Monkey, and his team. From the left side, a towering man made his entrance, accompanied by a few supporters from his village. Obinna, Iron Monkey, was indeed impressive, tall and broad-chested with arms that looked like tree trunks. He wore a tight sleeveless shirt to show off his muscular arms and a traditional striped wrapper around his waist. As he walked in, he occasionally lifted a small boy who had wandered too close, calling the child in one arm like a weight, and then set him down gently. The crowd whooped and clapped at the display. Obinna raised his arms in a showman's pose, soaking in the attention. He had a confident, almost cocky grin. Next to Chioma, Nneka muttered, show off. Boy is big, sha. Chioma nodded, eyes on Obinna. The man was formidable, no doubt. She felt a strange thrill of both challenge and apprehension course through her. Ikechukwu, not to be outdone, flexed his own arm and shouted, Amiibo, are we scared? No! Roared the hometown crowd. That's right. We will show them how strong we are. Ikechukwu handed the megaphone to another fellow who would referee, and he joined the lineup of contestants from Amiibo with a determined face. It was clear he took this personally. 4 men from Amiibo, Ikechukwu, Okafor, and 2 others, squared off against 3 burly men from Umuofia, including Iron Monkey. The rules were explained. There were several rounds of lifting. They had a long iron barbell set with increasing weight. Each round, they would add more weight. It wasn't exactly professional weightlifting, but the idea was simple. Lift the barbell from the ground above your head. If you fail, you are out. Last man standing or lifting wins and brings honor to his village. A pile of metal weight and cement blocks for extra challenge lay nearby. 2 referees, one from each village, stood by to verify lift. Let the best man win, the announcer declared. The crowd cheered wildly. Drum beats starting up again to build the atmosphere. Chioma found herself tightening her grip on the edge of her stool. She exchanged an excited glance with Nneka. This was it. The contest was starting. Emeka stood just in front of her, and when he turned around for a moment, his eyes met Chioma's. In them, she saw both excitement and a hint of caution. She simply smiled and patted the stool, as if to say, see, I'm sitting calmly. For now, at least. The first round began with a manageable weight on the barbell. One by one, the contestants stepped up amid claps and yells. Okafor lifted it with a grunt but steady arms. Ikechukwu went next, doing an exaggerated show of pretending it was light as a feather, which earned both cheers and laughter. The visitors from Umuofia took their turns, with Iron Monkey lifting and then doing 2 squats with it just to taunt the Amiibo team. The crowd, oh, and clapped. So far, Everyone handled the first weight easily. Add more, someone yelled. The referees piled on more weight at the ends of the iron bar. The barbell now looked much more intimidating. It was roughly the weight of two full-grown goats by local estimation. A hush fell as the second round commenced. One of the army men went first this time. He managed to lift it to chest level but couldn't get it over his head. With a groan, he had to drop it, stepping back in defeat. The crowd gave him consolatory applause. Next was a man from Umuofia, who heaved and with effort got the bar over his head. He let out a victory shout. Amiibo answered back when Okafor also lifted it successfully, veins bulging in his neck as the crowd screamed encouragement. Ikechukwu's turn came. He wiped his hands, cast a quick glance at Chioma and others as if to gather support, and then bent to grip the bar. "Go, Ikechukwu!" some girls screamed. With a mighty effort and a loud "Ha!" he hoisted the barbell over his head. His arms shook but he held it briefly, enough for the referee to mark it. The square erupted in cheers. Ikechukwu dropped the weight with a thud and puffed out his chest, clearly relieved and proud that he made it. "Ike, Ike, Ike, Ike," chanted a bunch of local youths. He took a little bow. Chioma clapped enthusiastically. Despite his earlier dismissal of women, she felt happy for him not to lose face so soon. Finally, Iron Monkey stepped up for this round, perhaps to show off. He asked the referees to add extra weight, a couple of the cement blocks, before he attempted. A collective gasp rose from the audience. Even his own teammates patted his shoulder as if to say, "Are you sure?" But Iron Monkey was brimming with confidence. With a fearsome growl, he lifted the barbell with the additional blocks. For a moment, it seemed he might have taken on too much. His face contorted and arms trembled, but then, inch by inch, he pressed the weight above his head. The crowd went absolutely wild at this feat. Even Chioma found herself applauding the impressive strength, while many others from Amiibo looked on in worried astonishment. He dropped the bar with a heavy thud, raising dust. Iron Monkey then flexed both arms at the Amiibo side and shouted, "Any more?" A broad grin on his face. Some of the Umuofia supporters hooted in delight, while the Amiibo crowd murmured amongst themselves. This stranger was indeed formidable. Nneka leaned to Chioma's ear. "This is getting interesting, but I don't like the way he's embarrassing our boys with that extra show." Chioma's eyes stayed on Obinna, who was soaking up the attention. "Me neither," she whispered back. Inside her chest, she felt that flicker, the challenge calling her name, flare a little stronger. She put a hand protectively on her belly and took a deep breath, willing herself to stay calm and just watch for now. The contest was far from over, but one thing was certain: the true test of strength and perhaps Chioma's resolve was about to reach its peak. The contest progressed into a third and final round, but now the sun hung high and many spectators used handkerchiefs or paper fans to stay cool. The barbell had been loaded with all the weight discs and additional cement blocks, an intimidating sight that even some strong men in the crowd eyed with trepidation. Only 3 contestants remained: Okafor and Ikechukwu for Amiibo and Obinna Iron Monkey for Umuofia. The tension was palpable. Drummers gave a low, suspenseful rhythm as Okafor stepped up to attempt the monster weight. Okafor squatted, grasping the iron bar. He let out a loud hiss and pulled with all his might. The barbell barely left the ground. His face tightened in a grimace. Muscles quivered. A handful of seconds passed, but the weight refused to go past his knees. With a frustrated cry, Okafor dropped it. He staggered back, shaking his head, defeated. A sympathetic applause rose. Okafor had done well to reach this stage. Now it was Ikechukwu's turn. He wiped his brow. Emeka rushed forward to pat his shoulder encouragingly. Ikechukwu took a deep breath and crouched. You can do it! Voices cheered, including Nneka's. He summoned every ounce of strength. Slowly, the barbell lifted off the ground. Oh! The crowd murmured as Ikechukwu got it to his waist. His arms strained, eyes bulging with effort. It was the heaviest thing he had ever attempted, and every inch was a battle. Chioma found herself half standing from her stool, fist clenched, as if trying to physically help lift it. Emeka was at his side, ready to spot him if needed. Ikechukwu tried to adjust his grip to push the bar overhead, but suddenly he let out a pained gasp. His right arm gave way, and the weight fell back to the ground with a thud. Ikechukwu stumbled and nearly fell forward. Emeka and another man caught him under the arms. Ikechukwu winced, clutching his shoulder. A collective groan of dismay rippled from amiibo spectators. Ikechukwu had failed the final lift, and worse, it looked like he might have pulled a muscle or injured himself. He limped away gingerly with Emeka's support. Now only Iron Man remained, and he had already proven he could lift more than anyone else here. The Umuofia supporters started clapping and chanting, "Iron, Iron, Iron, Iron," in celebration, sensing imminent victory. Iron Monkey stepped forward, brimming with confidence, perhaps too much confidence. Instead of attempting the weight immediately, he basked in the moment, waving at the crowd and flexing. Then, with a smile, he took the megaphone from the referee. "Amiibo!" His voice bled out, teasing in tone. "Is that all? No one left to challenge me? Have I defeated you so easily?" Some of the Amiibo villagers bowed or muttered, but many hung their heads or looked away, upset that the rival might win bragging rights today. Iron Monkey wasn't done. "If you have another man who can try, bring him. If not, maybe I should lift one of your palm wine barrels as extra. Or," he looked around, "should I lift a pregnant woman instead? Since that one might be too heavy for you people." He clearly meant it as a joke, but his words sent a ripple through the crowd. Emeka, who had been helping Ikechukwu to sit down, snapped his head up at that moment. Pregnant woman? He instantly thought of Chioma. He turned toward where Chioma is and froze. Chioma was already on her feet. Her eyes flashed with determination and a hint of mischief. Nneka was tugging at her arm, whispering urgently, "Chioma, no, don't mind him. He's just running his mouth. Sit down, Chioma. Chioma, sit." But Chioma gently freed her arm. Something had clicked inside her. Perhaps it was Iron Monkey's boast, or the disappointed faces of her townspeople, or just the fairy challenge in her own heart. Probably all of the above. Her pulse studded with resolve. Without waiting for permission, Chioma began walking, or rather, warding, through the crowd toward the front. People parted to let her through, confusion on their faces. Was Chioma actually going to? At the edge of the open area, Nneude and a couple of other elder women rushed toward her. "Chioma, have you gone mad?" Nneude hissed under her breath, eyes wide. "You're pregnant!" Chioma gave the older woman a respectful but firm look. "Nne, I know, but I also know I can do this. Biko, trust me." Before Nneude could protest further, Chioma stepped into the cleared circle of the contest ground. Gasps and murmurs exploded from the crowd. All eyes were now on Chioma, the strong pregnant woman who dared to step into a ring meant for men. Emeka hurried forward, meeting her halfway. His heart pounded with anxiety. "Chioma, what are you doing?" he whispered, trying not to let the whole crowd hear. She placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "What I need to do," she replied. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were almost gleaming with excitement. "I can't let him live here, thinking no one could match him. I'll be careful, my love." Emeka looked at her for a long second. He knew that look. It was the same stubborn resolve that had drawn him to her in the first place. Arguing now, in front of everyone, would only embarrass her. Instead, he nodded slowly, though worry etched deep on his face. Okay, just please be safe. By now, the referees and Ikechukwu, cradling his arms, realized what was happening. Ikechukwu managed a weak grin and announced into the megaphone, "Oh, a new challenger has entered for Army Igbo." The crowd went wild. Some cheered in amusement, some in actual support. Others shouted, "No, no, no," in concern. It was a mix of excitement and worry. Iron Monkey looked utterly amused. He handed the megaphone back, staring at Chioma approaching the barbell. "What is this, a joke?" he barked, not sure whether to laugh. "Go home, madam. This is not for you." Chioma raised a hand, silencing him with surprising authority. "You said any man. Why not a woman?" she said loud enough for the whole nearby crowd to hear. Her tone was light, but there was a challenge in it. "Unless you are afraid of being beaten by a pregnant woman in public." A roar of "Yay!" and "Eh-heh!" came from the spectators at the retort. Iron Monkey's eyes bulged in disbelief at her audacity. He certainly couldn't back down now, not without losing face. One of the elder referees, looking flustered, approached Chioma. "My daughter, I don't think this is safe. Please." Chioma gently touched the older man's arm. "Nani, I promise. I'm aware of my condition. I won't do what I know I can't. But I can do this. Let me try, just once." The referee hesitated, then glanced at the Igwe and elders on the stage. The Igwe himself was leaning forward, eyes keen with curiosity. He hadn't stopped it, which many took as unspoken permission to proceed. In truth, he was as astonished as everyone else, but also intrigued. With that, Chioma turned to the task at hand. The monstrous barbell lay before her, loaded with weights that had bested all the men before. The crowd fell into a tense hush, save for a few murmured prayers and exclamations like "Chinekem, Biko, make it easy for her, God please." Chioma closed her eyes briefly. She recalled a favorite Igbo saying her mother taught her, "Onyekwe, Chiekwe." If you agree to a thing, your spirit also consents. In other words, if you have the will and conviction, the universe will back you up. She opened her eyes, then bent her knees and placed her hands on the rough iron bar. Emeka hovered nearby, like a worried eagle, ready to jump in if anything went wrong. Nneka had her hands over her mouth, heart pounding in her throat. Chioma adjusted her grip. She planted her feet firmly in the red earth, feeling the solid ground and drawing strength from it. For a moment, in the silence, the only sound was a kite bird crying overhead and Chioma's own measured breathing. Then she pulled. At first, nothing happened. The weights seemed welded to the ground. A few people sighed, thinking it's impossible, but Chioma grit her teeth, changed her angle slightly, and summoned strength from every fiber of her body, legs, arms, back, core, and perhaps some fierce material instinct feeling it all. Slowly, the bar began to rise. A stone silence fell. Then, a wave of sound as the crowd realized the bar was indeed moving upward. "She's lifting it!" someone yelled in disbelief. Chioma's arms shook. She felt an intense strain, but she held firm, up to her knees, then her waist. Her belly made the maneuver a bit awkward, but she turned that into a balancing advantage, almost resting one of the bar lightly against the upper part of her belly and thighs as she adjusted her grip for the overhead press. Emeka stepped forward, but Chioma had already begun the final push. With a mighty passionate shout, half grunt, half triumphant cry, Chioma drove the barbell upward. Every muscle in her body burned. For a second, it seemed it might not go past her shoulders. She thought of her village, of not wanting to see them lose, and frankly, of wiping the small grin off the Iron Monkey's face. Perhaps it was that thought that gave the final burst of energy. With one more yell, Chioma extended her arms fully and locked the barbell over her head. The weight that no man here could lift. A heavily pregnant woman now held aloft like a champion. For a heartbeat, you could have had an ant sneeze in that square. Nobody believed what their eyes showed them. Even the drummers stopped, sticks frozen in mid-air. A thunder of cheers, screams, and applause exploded from villagers of Amiibo, and quite a few from other villagers too, who were simply amazed. Men were hollering and jumping, women filled with joy, children not fully understanding what happened but excited by the noise started dancing around. Iron Monkey's jaw hung open. He looked as if someone had hit him with a fufu stick. His supporters from Umuofia were equally stunned. One actually dropped the palm wine he had been sipping from. Chioma stood there, arms still holding the weight overhead for a moment longer, as flashes of cameras from a few smartphones in the crowd went off. This event would surely hit WhatsApp chats by evening. She had a victorious smile on her face. Finally, with controlled care, Chioma set the barbell down. Emeka practically flew to her side, wrapping one arm around her for support. Nneka was already laughing and crying at the same time, trying to hug Chioma without knocking anyone over. The referee from Umuofia, regaining his wits, raised Chioma's hand in the air like she was a boxing champion. "Winner! Amiibo wins!" he declared, grinning broadly. He looked as thrilled by the spectacle as if it were his own daughter who triumphed. Chioma caught Iron Monkey's eye across the way. The big man was still shell-shocked, but then he did something unexpected. He began to clap, slowly at first, then earnestly. He gave Chioma a nod of respect, acknowledging defeat and admiring her strength. Perhaps being tested by this woman didn't wound his pride as badly as one might think. If anything, he seemed almost pleased to have witnessed something so extraordinary. The square was in chaos, the good kind. People rushed forward to congratulate Chioma, some still half disbelieving. Shouts of "Chioma, Chioma, Chioma" filled the air, along with "Wanyike, Wanyike," strong woman, woman of strength. Amidst the jubilant crowd, Chioma felt a lightness and joy surge through her. She had done it, not just for herself, but for her village. Emeka kissed her forehead, his face shining with pride and tears in his eyes. "My wife, the strongest of them all," he murmured, half laughing. Chioma chuckled, leaning into him as the adrenaline began to ebb. "I told you I won't break," she whispered. However, as the drum beat resumed in celebration and people danced around her, Chioma suddenly felt a strange, familiar cramp low in her belly. She inhaled sharply, placing a hand on her stomach. The baby within gave a strong, unmistakable kick, as if giving a standing ovation. Nneka noticed the change in Chioma's expression. "Are you okay? Don't tell me." Chioma blinked and then laughed softly. "It's okay. I think the baby is just excited too." Secretly, she wondered if that was just a particular strong kick or the first hint that her little one might be ready to make an entrance sooner than expected. But for now, she decided to enjoy this triumphant moment. Surrounded by cheering villagers and with her husband's arms steady around her, Chioma, pregnant and powerful, basked in the sweetest victory of her life. The celebration in the square took on a life of their own. The drummers switched to an upbeat victory rhythm, and a few villagers hoisted Ikechukwu and Okafor onto their shoulders as well. After all, they had tried their best, and now everyone was just overjoyed at the unexpected win. Someone shoved a calabash of palm wine into Chioma's free hand, though Nneka promptly took it away, scolding, "Ah, no palm wine for you, new strong mama." The Igwe himself stood up on the stage and raised his hands for attention. Slowly, the ecstatic noise quieted enough for him to speak. His deep voice carried across the square. Today, we have seen that strength is not only by muscle, not only by man, but by spirit and will. Chioma, daughter of Amiibo, has made us proud. A huge cheer followed. Chioma, blushing, managed a polite curtsy, one hand on her belly for balance. The Igwe continued with a broad smile. I confer on her, right here, the title Adike, daughter of strength. The crowd roared again. Chioma's mouth fell open in surprise. It wasn't an official chieftaincy, but it was a spontaneous honor titled from the monarch, a rare and touching gesture. Adike, Adike, people chanted. Chioma's friend, Nneka, squeezed her arm, eyes shining with pride. Iron Monkey, Obinna, made his way through the crowd to Chioma and extended his hand. Chioma, he said, a bit breathless from all the excitement. I am humbled. That was incredible. Congratulations. Chioma accepted his handshake. Thank you. You gave us a good challenge. She replied graciously. Never in her wildest dreams did she imagine she would be shaking hands with a giant weightlifter after outlifting him. Obinna then did something a bit unexpected. He laughed and said, please, when you have this baby, and if you ever want to compete professionally, come to Lagos. I will train you myself. Chioma laughed along with everyone who heard that. The image of her joining a weightlifting team with a baby on her back was too funny. No, let me just stick to lifting mortars and pestles in my kitchen, she joked. Nearby, Neude was fanning herself, half in shock and half in delight. She caught Chioma's eyes and wagged her finger with mock severity. You, this girl, you wanted to give me heart attack. What if something had happened, Sophia Hua? Chioma walked over and gave the older woman a warm hug. Sorry, Nne. I'm fine, see? Neude melted into a smile and patted her back. Fine indeed. You are stubborn as a goat, but we love you like that. Our own Diana, the Huntress. She used the nickname of a famous strong woman she had heard about on the radio once, making everyone chuckle. As the adrenaline of the contest started to wear off, Chioma felt both tiredness and elation washing over her. Emeka stayed glued to her side, his arm firmly around her waist as congratulations kept coming. A group of young girls, eyes wide in admiration, clustered around to touch Chioma's hand or her dress as if she were a heroine from a folktale. Auntie, well done, ma, they chorused, giggling. We want to be strong like you. Chioma gave them a high fives and gentle words of encouragement. Drink your pap, do your chores well, and don't let anyone tell you you are weak, They nodded. Ikechukwu, rubbing his sore shoulder, approached with an awkward grin. Earlier that week, he had dismissed the idea of women in the contest. Now, he looked positively. Chioma, he said, stretching his hand, I have to admit, I never expected. You really showed us. Chai, you are talk and do. That's who you are. She teased him lightly. So next time, you won't say something is not for women. Ikechukwu put his palms together in a mock plea. Forgive me. From now on, if I hear women can't, I'll remember today and shut my mouth. Emeka laughed and clapped his friend on the back. At least you lifted it halfway, my guy. Don't worry, your shoulder will heal, or your pride might take longer. They all laughed, including Ikechukwu. It was good-natured now. In truth, he seemed relieved that Amiibo won, no matter who achieved it. Just then, as if on cue, to punctuate the joyous moment, Chioma felt a sudden wet trickle down her leg, followed by a small gush that soaked the bottom of her wrapper. She gasped softly and looked down in surprise. Nneka's sharp eyes followed, and immediately she shrieked, Chioma, did your water break? At her words, Emeka and Chioma locked eyes. Chioma's face was one of astonishment that quickly turned into half laughing, half nervous confirmation. I think so. The baby is coming. A brief second of stunned silence was followed by a burst of activity more frenzied than the contest itself. Ngwa, 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 make way! Neude sprang into action, waving her hands to clear a path through the crowd. Labor, baby on the way, oh! Emeka, though panicked inside, tried to remain calm. He carefully supported Chioma. Okay, easy, let's get you home or to the health center, he said, voice shaking with excitement and worry. Chioma breathed deeply, a contraction already, tightening her belly. Chineke, she muttered, gripping Emeka's arm. The baby chose timing. Oh, maybe all the lifting jolted it to come out now. Despite the pain, she managed a crooked smile. Trust her child to pick the most dramatic moment. The news spread like wildfire. Chioma is in labor. In an instant, a cluster of women, some experienced mothers and one trained midwife who had been at the festival, rallied around Chioma. They formed a protective cordon, shooing back onlookers. The midwife, Auntie Ifeoma, took charge. Don't worry, breathe, Chioma. Is this your first baby? Chioma nodded, clutching Emeka's hand. All right, we'll take her to the clinic now, Auntie Ifeoma declared. Iron Monkey, hearing the commotion, looked genuinely concerned. Oh my goodness, is she all right? She'll be fine, Nneka answered on Chioma's behalf, though her own hands trembled with concern for her friend. Just baby coming, that's all. Obinna stepped aside respectfully as Emeka and two other men lifted Chioma carefully onto a padded bench, the same one Ikechukwu had been sitting on earlier. In the flurry, Chioma joked weakly. First, they cheer me for lifting. Now, they carry me like a queen. This day, Emeka, despite his worry, chuckled and kissed her hand. You are my queen. Now let's go welcome our little prince or princess. With a coordinated effort, they carried Chioma toward the local health center down the road. The midwife and the women hurrying alongside. The crowd parted, many shouting prayers and well wishes. Safe delivery! It will be easy like slicing yam. Chukwu goziegi, God bless you. And so, the New Yam Festival of Amiibo concluded with a grand finale no one had anticipated. Their champion heading off to bring a new life into the world. As Chioma was spun away, sweaty, smiling and grimacing by turns, she raised her hand to wave at her village folk. They erupted in one more round of cheers, waving her back fervently. It was a day for the history books of Amiibo, the day a heavily pregnant woman became a hero and then a mother, all before the sunset. That evening, under a silver of moon and twinkling stars, joyful news spread through Amiibo like the aroma of frying plantain. Chioma had given birth to a healthy baby. Both mother and child were doing well. By the next morning, the village practically formed a caravan to Chioma and Emeka's house. The new parents had returned home from the health center early, as everything went smoothly and Chioma insisted she preferred the comfort of her own bed. Inside their modest home, Chioma sat propped up on a pillow, looking tired but radiant. In her arms was a bundle wrapped in a soft Ankara fabric blanket. Emeka hovered beside her, beaming with pride and occasionally making silly faces at the baby. One by one, family, friends and neighbors trooped in with gifts and well wishes. The room soon filled with the scent of hot pepper soup, especially cooked to help Chioma recover strength, baskets of fruits, and even a huge yam tuber or two, offerings to celebrate the newborn. Nneka was among the first visitors, practically dancing through the door. Praise be to God, Chioma. Look at you, you did it, she squealed, gently hugging her friend and then picking at the newborn. Aww, so cute. Look at those cheeks. Chioma grinned wearily. Meet her daughter, Ikeoma. Ikeoma, strength is beautiful. Nneka repeated the name's meaning, grinning wide. Perfect name for the daughter of our strong woman, and such a beautiful girl she is. The infant, Ikeoma, yawned and blinked her tiny eyes at the sound of voices. To everyone's amusement, she then balled her little fists and waved them in the air. It looked as though she was showing boxing or already trying to lift something invisible. Nneude, peering over Nneka's shoulder, clapped her hands in delight. Hey! See this pikin oh, she's ready to carry on the legacy. Chioma, better hide your dumbbells. She will start training early. The room burst into laughter. Even Ikechukwu, arm in a sling from his strained shoulder, hobbled in with a flask of fresh palm wine for Emeka and the other men to toast with, since Chioma wouldn't be drinking. He gave a dramatic bow. Our champion, I salute you, and little champion too. Emeka shook his friend's hand and teased. Have you come for a rematch? Better heal first, Biko. Nah, I surrender forever. Ikechukwu laughed, raising his one free hand. He then reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny infant-sized shirt that read, Strong like Mama, which he had hastily gotten printed in town early that morning. He held it up to general laughter. Chioma covered her face, chuckling. Where did you find that? I have my ways, Ikechukwu said, handing it to her. I figured little Ikoma would need this. Emeka whistled. So fast. You didn't waste time, oh. Ikechukwu winked. I had to redeem myself with creativity since I can't with my muzzle. As more neighbors filed in, the house and compound were alive with chatter and laughter. People wanted to hear the story of the previous day retold. And each time someone told it, the embellishments grew more humorous. One man proclaimed Chioma lifted the weight as if it was a baby basket. A woman swore the earth shook when Chioma raised the barbell, and that even the ancestors must have been clapping in the spirit world. Amid the merriment, the babies started to fuss, perhaps sensing the crowd. Auntie Ifeoma, the midwife, gently advised everyone to give the new mother some space to rest. So the well-wishers began to trickle back outside to continue the celebration under the mango tree in the compound, leaving only close family and friends inside. Emeka sat on the edge of the bed, gazing at Chioma and their child with a look of profound love and wonder. I still can't believe everything that had happened, he said softly. He touched Ikoma's tiny hand, and her fingers curled tightly around his finger, surprisingly strong for a newborn. Oh yeah, see grip. She's definitely your daughter, he joked. Chioma leaned her head on his shoulder. Our daughter, she corrected, smiling. Then with a playful side eye, she added, though, yes, I suspect she got some extra strength from me. They both laughed. Emeka kissed Chioma's forehead. Thank you, he whispered, for making me the happiest and, well, for keeping life interesting. Chioma closed her eyes. I should be thanking you. You always believed in me, even when you worry, and now we have our greatest prize. They shared a tender moment, watching Ikoma's peaceful face as she drifted back to sleep after a small whimper. Outside, they could hear the faint sounds of neighbors and singing and an impromptu drum beat starting up. It seemed any excuse to drum was good enough, and a new baby was certainly cause for a song. Nneude popped her head in one last time to check if Chioma needed anything. More hot soup or water? Chioma shook her head. Nne, I'm fine. Nneude sighed in contentment. Okay, I will go and come back in the evening. Rest well, Adike? You have done more than enough this week. She chuckled and added, if I hear that you are out splitting firewood or something tomorrow, I will personally tie you to the bed. Chioma burst out laughing. No chance, Nne. I think I've earned a little break. As the elder woman left, Chioma and Emeka exchanged amused glances. Emeka raised an eyebrow. For once, maybe you will actually take it easy. Chioma shrugged innocently. I will try. Doctor's orders and Nneude's threats combined are scary enough. Then she smiled. But give me 1 week and I might be able to lift you and the baby at the same time, just to show off. Oh Lord, I have created a monster. Emeka pretended to groan, and they both laughed. The late morning sun filtered in through the curtains, casting a warm golden glow in the room. Chioma looked around at the flowers and gifts, listening to the distant joyous sounds of her community, and felt deeply content. In the span of 2 days, she had become a village hero and a mother. Life in Amiibo would surely return to its calm routine soon enough. But the story of Chioma, the strong, the woman who lifted the weight and lifted the community spirit, would be told and retold for years to come. Cradling little Ikoma, Chioma yawned. Time to rest indeed, she murmured. Emeka nodded, gently taking the baby from her to lay in a nearby woven bassinet. Yes, sleep. You have earned it. Just before closing her eyes, Chioma saw Emeka making faces at Ikoma again, the baby's tiny lips curling in what might have been the start of a smile. It made her heart swell. With a final whisper, Chioma said, "Well done, my little one. They don't know that you were the secret strength I carried all along." And with that, enveloped by love and the happy aura surrounding her home, Chioma drifted into the most contented sleep, dreaming of nothing at all because reality itself was sweet enough. True strength is not only in big muscles but in courage, humility, and community love. Chioma shows that when you believe in yourself and act with purpose, even gentle people can do great things. And you don't need to shout to prove it. Respect women and never mock or limit them. Talent and bravery can come from anyone at any time. Boasting brings shame, but honoring others brings joy. And like our elders say, Onye kwere, chi ya ekwe. When your heart agrees, your spirit and the world help you succeed. Thank you so much for watching this amazing story about Chioma the Strong on African Stories by V. If you liked it and felt inspired with our journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories by V, and do not forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.